There's that old saying, you are what you eat, but I often wondered, do we become what we ride? I recently traded away a Triumph Trident 660, and part of the reason I traded that bike away, I've come to realize, is because it was turning me into a complete asshole. Today, I'm on a 2006 Harley Dyna on loan to the channel from my friend Alice, and I'm wondering, will a giant American-made icon of a bike like this turn me into something else? Am I going to go start a bar fight? I don't know. Let's find out. I, of course, don't mean to paint all Harley riders with the same stroke. In fact, the only Harley riders I know are doctors and tech consultants. So, they're not exactly, out there starting bar fights, as far as I know. But there's no denying that when you strap yourself onto a bike like this Harley Dyna, it sort of makes you feel a little different. When I was riding my Triumph Trident 660, I enjoyed the hell out of it, but at the same time, it was sort of turning me into a different person, or at least a different kind of rider, one that I didn't really like all that much. I remember coming home from Moscow, Idaho, and I was on I-84 heading west. There was barely any traffic, but I was in the fast lane, and there was a dude in front of me going about 50. And I got really, really angry. I didn't like the person who I had become in that moment. I was beeping, I was flashing my lights, and finally I just downshifted to 5th and blew past the guy doing about 90 miles an hour. And that was the first time I realized, this bike is making me act differently than I do when I'm on, say, my Himalayan. And fast forward a few weeks after I got rid of the Trident and got myself a Moto Guzzi V7 Sport. That bike is pretty damn fast. It's got a lot of pep going, a lot of torque. But when I ride it, it's a completely different experience than when I ride the Trident 660. When I ride the Moto Guzzi, I feel at peace with the world. I don't know, I'm totally gelling with the folks around me, and even though I could blow past them in a heartbeat, I'm perfectly content hanging back. And it's the same when I'm on my Himalayan. When I'm on my Himalayan, speed is the last thing on my mind. Aggression is the last thing on my mind. I'm just kind of hanging out, doing my own thing. If I feel like, twisting the throttle a little bit, it's got enough pep to make it fun, but it's not so much that it's tempting to really just ride like a jerk. So, enter this 2006 Harley-Davidson Dyna. This thing, first of all, the sound of it is measured in megatons, not decibels. It is loud. It's fairly aggressive with its torque, and of course, just the whole mystique that comes with riding a Harley-Davidson on American roads. You can't deny it. It's a thing. And so when I picked this bike up this morning, and I started it up and drove away from Alice's house, the first thing I thought was, man, this thing makes me feel like a tough guy. I feel like a complete badass. This isn't my first time on a Harley. I had rented a Harley Sportster back a couple of years ago on a trip to Tucson. And while that bike made me feel like a badass, it was pretty small and kind of weak compared to this bike. This bike is the full-on Harley-Davidson experience, down to every last loose nut and bolt. And so I was driving away from Alice's house thinking, for the first few minutes, yeah, I kind of do feel like an absolute badass. And when the reality of riding a 650-pound giant motorcycle through city streets finally hit, I realized I wasn't a badass at all. I was actually feeling a little vulnerable, if I'm being honest. But, like anything, you get used to it. And now I've got, 30, 40, 50 miles on this bike, something like that. Now I'm used to it. And so I can settle in and decide if and how this bike is changing my riding personality. I don't think there's any doubt that, to a certain extent, you do become what you ride. When I'm on my Himalayan, I'm feeling like adventurous. I don't mind wearing my sort of, Alpine Stars ADV jacket and my ADV boots and feeling like I'm going on an adventure, even if I'm just going to the grocery store to get a grapefruit. I feel adventurous. It makes me feel adventurous. I look adventurous, and so it sets a mindset. When I'm on my Moto Guzzi, and I'm dressed up in my, black leather jacket, and, maybe some brown leather boots, and I'm feeling a little classy, I don't know. You can't really deny that that's a thing. It's not that I'm, a poser. I'm not, out there trying to be something I'm not. It's just that, maybe I am two different people. I am the sort of adventure guy, to a certain extent, that likes to hop on his, Indian-made adventure bike and see the world, and by the world I mean, Starbucks. And then sometimes I'm the classy little Italian dude that likes to get on his Moto Guzzi and go have an espresso. I don't know. All I know is I gotta turn this beast around right now. Oh, God. Oh, mama. I'll tell you, having to turn around a 650-pound American chrome masterpiece here strips away any feeling of feeling like a tough guy. Oh, God. Okay. And so, while I'm on this Harley, I'm having a sort of weird personality shift, or, I'm becoming a sort of different kind of rider, but it's not the rider that I expected I would become after spending time on this bike. I really did think riding this bike would be emboldening in a maybe bad way, like it was on the Trident. Like, I knew I could go fast, and so it pissed me off when I couldn't go fast. On this bike, I know that it's loud and it's a Harley, and if I wanted to, I could probably drive around and intimidate people or something, I don't know. But I have no desire to do that, of course. And so, I'm not going to become that person. What I am becoming as I ride this bike is relaxed and happy and in a mood where I feel like sort of exploring, but exploring in a different sort of way. This is the kind of bike you throw an old leather duffel bag on, you strap it down with rock straps or whatever, and you just go, and you have the sort of adventure that maybe we all sort of romanticized people had in the 60s and 70s, right? And that's the feeling I get from this bike more than anything, more than feeling like a tough guy, more than feeling like, I want to go drink whiskey with the boys and get a leather vest with patches on the back and join some sort of biker gang. It's not really my deal. But I do think it's a mistake, like a big mistake, for people to dismiss a bike like this Harley Dyna, or any Harley, just because of the sort of aura and, negative connotation that comes with riding a Harley. It would sadden me to think that people would miss out on an experience like this because they're afraid of how they're going to look to other people. As you may or may not know from previous videos, I don't really give a shit what anyone thinks about how I look or what I do. And that's important when you're riding a Harley like this, because like I said, it is loud as hell. And it's easy to ride this bike around and worry about what people think, or people thinking I'm an asshole because this bike is so loud. It takes a little bit of something inside to make yourself not care what people think. Because, yeah, the bike is loud. Maybe it's a little rude to ride this thing around neighborhoods. But a lot of people do a lot of rude shit that they get away with because it's accepted by society. People leave their dogs barking in their houses for 12 hours on end, and no one says a goddamn word. That drives me crazy. But I also don't say a word, because I know everyone's different, and everyone's got their thing, and you know what? Who am I? And so, if my loud pipes are a little loud, and they irritate some people, that sucks. But you know what? We all do something that irritates someone, so just because loud pipes are not necessarily the most socially accepted thing in the world doesn't mean that they're any worse than anything else. But back to the feeling of how a motorcycle changes you as a person, or at least as a rider, depending on the motorcycle. I think that's one of the greatest gifts that motorcycling could possibly give us, is that ability to become someone different for just a little while, regardless of whether it has anything to do with the bike you're riding, right? When I'm on my motorcycle, or in this case Alice's motorcycle, I'm a different person than I am when I'm sitting behind a keyboard doing work, like coding or whatever the hell I'm doing. I'm a completely different person. I'm much more of a free spirit. I know that sounds cliche, but whatever. I am much more of a free spirit when I'm on a motorcycle, and that's what I love about it so much. And a bike like this Harley-Davidson, for all of its faults, one thing you can't fault it for is its ability to make you feel like a free spirit. Dear God, the sound, the rumble, the feeling when you twist the throttle, there's nothing like this. And this is coming from someone who has a, 3-4 week old Moto Guzzi that I happen to think might be the finest motorcycle ever made, and I'm not even kidding about that. That bike, as far as making me feel like a free spirit, oh my goodness. But it does it in a different, not completely different, but a different way than this Harley does. This Harley makes me understand a little bit why this bike and these bikes in general are so popular. I get it. I might not love it. I'm not saying I don't. And you might not love it. But it shouldn't be too hard to wrap your head around how riding a Harley like this can change who you are, at least for an hour while you're out riding it, if not permanently. I'm not even kidding. It's no secret that I pretty much love all motorcycles. Hell, you could strap a Briggs & Stratton on a Huffy, and I'd be perfectly happy. I'm not sure I've ever actually ridden a motorcycle that I didn't at least like in some way. And I can pretty much say with authority that I've fallen in love with 95% of the bikes I've ridden. And I'm gonna be perfectly honest and say I'm kind of feeling that right now for this Harley. It just so happens that Alice, my friend, is selling this Harley. And so, I know that if it were easy for me to just stuff this motorcycle in my garage, I'd buy it in a second because, well, it's fantastic, and I hate to see a motorcycle leave the family. But having 3 motorcycles in a small garage is a real pain in the butt, I've come to learn. That's not saying I'm 100% against it, and I could definitely see myself buying this motorcycle because it elicits something in me that other motorcycles don't. I'm not saying it's better. I would never in a million years trade my Moto Guzzi or my Himalayan for this motorcycle. I would never do that. But to have this as a third motorcycle, for those days when I'm feeling, low and beat down and like the world just sucks, you know what? There's nothing better probably than hopping on Harley-Davidson and making some noise. There's nothing wrong with that. That's what motorcycles are for. Motorcycles are here to massage your soul and give you license to be the person you want to be, even if you're not 100% that person. I'm not a tough guy. I'm not intimidating in any way, shape, or form. But if a motorcycle like this makes me feel a little bit more powerful, and I don't end up abusing that power like I started to feel like I was doing on my Trident, then there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. I'm curious, am I just an oddball in thinking that a motorcycle can have an effect on your personality? Do you feel the same way? I would love to know in the comments or through an email or whatever your story about how your motorcycle changes who you are, either temporarily or on a fundamental basic level. Does your motorcycle influence your personality and your character? I mean, I know for a fact that it influences your mood. We wouldn't be riding these damn things if they weren't fun and they didn't make us happy. But there's more to motorcycling than just having fun and being happy. There's a lot more that a motorcycle could do for you. And that's what I'm learning as my riding career progresses. It's so loud though. Oh my god. Oh, it's so loud. If you're not doing anything, check out this video. I'm told by the algorithm that it's the best one I've ever made, but I have no idea. And I'll catch you on the next one. Probably back on the Guzzi, but most likely on the Himalayan. We'll see. Oh yeah.